Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Final Trade. So TCG Player had their little bonus bucks sale yesterday on Flesh and Blood, Digimon, and I think MetaZoo was a 7% sale. That was on March 8th of 2022. So I thought I'd just come over and parse some data from their website and see how Flesh and Blood sold and see if we can take way too little data and make some wild assumptions about it very irresponsibly. So let's do it. So what I did is I went through and I pulled the sale quantity for all 6 sets that have been released, and I divided it up by the unlimited and first edition printings, and I looked at the single booster boxes and the 4-box cases. Now you'll notice first that for Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War, I only took unlimited sales, not first edition sales, because of course selling a first edition box of any of those is kind of a bigger deal than what we're interested in right now. I think the Welcome to Wraith first edition boxes are still around $4,000. The Arcane Risings are about $2,000, and the Crucible of War first editions are about $750, something like that. So I left them out because I think any sales of those would be outliers for the purpose of this analysis. And, I left in first edition Monarch, even though it's $165 compared to $65 for the unlimited. And I think that's okay. Maybe we could split hairs over that. But what I did is I took the quantity of each and then I just multiplied it out. So I converted all the cases, which are for Flesh and Blood, are always 4 boxes in a case so far. I converted those into total number of absolute boxes. So if there were any cases sold, I converted that over. And then I said, just what's the approximate price of all of these products, just based on headline price, essentially. So about what was everybody paying for them. I wasn't too concerned with down to the penny on any of this stuff. We're looking for broad trends here. And then I said, what was the total booster boxes sold by the set? And so these here, where you have first edition and unlimited available, or included for this analysis at least, I totaled those up to see if there were any interesting trends. And then I said, well, and for those, what was the average price people paid when you factor in that the first edition and the unlimited boxes cost a different amount? I rewrote the set name in this column just so your eyes don't have to try to track back and forth as much. And I made a note of in print and out of print here. And so one last thing you'll notice is I've highlighted Crucible of War and Everfest. That's because Legend Story Studios designed these for Flesh and Blood to be supplementary sets. And I'm not sure if that's Legend Story's name for them or if that's just kind of what the market has given them. I think at one point I heard them called Armory sets also. But basically they're like small expansions compared to the other two. And if Legend Story keeps on with this kind of block looking approach where they have 2 equally sized large expansions like Welcome to Wraith and Arcane Rising, followed by a smaller set like Crucible of War, then maybe we'll see this again and again. But so far, they've repeated this pattern through the first 6 sets. But it's important to note because on a per card basis, these supplemental sets are more expensive. You don't really get a discount on the boxes of cards. And not only do the sets have fewer cards in them, but the booster packs themselves only have 10 cards in Crucible of War and Everfest compared to 15 in all of the rest of the expansions. So you're getting a lot fewer cards, but you're paying the same amount. So that's maybe something interesting to think about when we're going through this. But so what can we wildly speculate about and irresponsibly conclude from these data? The first interesting thing to me was total booster boxes sold of in-print versus out-of-print products. And so of the 3 in-print sets right now, this is 220 boxes sold, and the out-of-prints was only 93. And I'd love to be able to conclusively say that that means there's way more players and collectors than there are investors, but I don't really know that I could support that. Obviously, you would expect the newer products to sell better because they're newer. There's been less time for people to put them into their collections or into their closet for investment or into their decks for playing. So I don't really know that I can say that that's positive for kind of overcoming this narrative that Flesh and Blood is just all a bunch of investors just and nobody plays the game. I don't think that's true at all, but it'd be nice if we could conclude something towards that for these data, but we'll see if we can. The next interesting thing that you notice from this data is by set, the most bought set was Everfest, and that's good. It means that people are buying the most recent set. They like it, even though it's this small supplementary set. It sold really well, and in fact, it sold at almost a 2-to-1 ratio to the next best-selling set of this sale yesterday, Tales of Aria. And then as you go down here, Arcane Rising was next, and then Monarch, and then Welcome to Wraith, and then Crucible sold the least. And this is kind of interesting to me. So something most people don't realize is Crucible of War First Edition originally came out sometime like, I want to say it was November of 2020, something like that. And Unlimited Crucible of War did not come out until the end of July of 21. It took them forever to get that product out. And the really weird thing is, Unlimited Crucible of War was only in print for 2.5 months before Legend Story Studio announced that the whole expansion was now out of print. So it probably only saw the printing press one time, and it was our first opportunity to see that, hey, even though the packs only have 10 cards in them, Legend Story Studios is still going to insert them to the distribution chain at the same price. So they're expecting us to pay a much higher price for the same, or per card, basically. And so I know that what I was doing is after Unlimited came out, I just didn't buy because I was waiting for the price to go down. But then one day, Legend Story Studios says, hey, this is out of print, and the price had never come down. And so it makes me wonder if long term, there's just not that much Crucible out there, not that much Unlimited Crucible especially, and it looks like people really didn't take it up here. It sold only or less than half as much as the next worst seller, I guess you'd say. And so I wonder if long term there's an opportunity here with Crucible of War, especially because of how little is sold in general, just how bad the set sells. I don't know, maybe. Another interesting thing that I see from these data is that 11 boxes of Monarch First Edition were sold and 26 boxes of Unlimited. And so there's this $100 price difference in here. And I can imagine that maybe these 11 boxes were people who are throwing them back in a closet, don't plan to open them. And maybe most of these 26 boxes were people who do plan to open them, plan to play the game and enjoy the cards now. And so this $100 price difference can really change the psychology of buying, where on the very next set, Tales of Aria, you had a 10-to-1 ratio of purchasing First Edition over purchasing Unlimited, but the difference in the box price was only $25. And I can definitely imagine if you're going to buy the cards for investing and putting them in your closet, definitely pay the $25 extra, get the First Edition box. It's probably going to be worth it. I can't imagine many future scenarios where Unlimited boxes perform that closely to First Edition boxes long term. But if you're someone who was wanting to buy Tales of Aria and you were looking at these box prices and you thought, I can just pay $25 more and I have a chance for First Edition cold foils. Oh yeah. And it looks like the market took that up at a 10-to-1 ratio. I think that's really interesting. I don't really know that I have a lot of other interesting insights into this. It is interesting, I guess, that 313 boxes sold. I went and checked eBay before I did this analysis just to see if boxes were considerably cheaper on eBay. And basically for Flesh and Blood at this moment, eBay and TCG Player are the same price. So when you took the bonus bucks into account yesterday, TCG Player was cheaper than eBay. So I really didn't worry about eBay kind of messing up this analysis. I just kind of squinted and pretend that it didn't exist yesterday. Total sales of $26,000. Maybe people will scoff and say, well, that's nothing. Flesh and Blood's a tiny game and nobody plays it. And I'll agree it's a tiny game. We probably expect right now that it's got somewhere between about 3 and 5% market share, maybe 3 to 8%. But I think it'll grow well over the long term. And average price paid for a box yesterday, $83. I checked out taking the Monarch First Edition out of this analysis, and that average price only dropped to $80. So it's not really buoying that average price too much. So let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any interesting conclusions you see from these data that I'm not seeing, or if you disagree with the conclusions that I'm drawing from the data. Let me know. If you like this kind of content, deep dives with spreadsheets and awful math and trying to tease out relationships from data and hope that we can make some kind of predictive power out of it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.